Hi, Mac.
Hey.
Welcome to LP In Depth. We're going to talk WandaVision, and that's why Mac's here. Before we get going, we just want to take a moment to remember Dwayne Savage, who was a member of our little work team here in terms of that. He was the dad of one of our coworkers and passed away today after a long battle with cancer. He was always an inspiration to those around him and will be sorely missed. So we're going to dedicate this episode of LP In Depth to his memory. But in just a few moments, we'll be back and we'll be talking WandaVision.
So what's a single gal like you doing rattling around this big house?
Well, I assure you, I'm married to a man, a human one.
Wanda.
What's it been? And I ran, wipe the sleep out of my...
We are an unusual couple.
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
We just don't know what to expect.
Howdy, neighbors.
Hey, bud.
Wanda, what's up?
Who are you?
I don't know.
I think something's wrong here.
Wanda, can you hear me? Who's doing this to you?
Are you here to help? This is our home.
Then let's fight for it.
Well, I think we handled that well.
So Mac is here because he's seen 3 episodes, the 2-part opening that will be debuting this week on January 15th, and then the second week's episode, which is the 3rd episode. He can't give a review yet, so stay tuned for Thursday for Laughing Place where he can give his full review. But he can't give his initial reaction. So, in a minute or less, what was your thoughts there?
It's so hard to limit myself here. It is everything we thought it would be, everything we wanted it to be, and so much more. It's a lot of fun and so incredibly different.
Yeah, I'd say probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do for LP is give you this assignment, as much as I really wanted to see it. So I have not seen the show. Mac has. And as part of the sort of publicity roundup today, they had a press conference. Just coincidentally, we planned on this being a WandaVision show. So luckily, there's no embargo on that coverage. So what did you talk a little bit about what happened today?
Yeah, so the press conference today included a lot of the cast. So Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, who obviously stars Wanda and Vision, Catherine Hahn, and Tiana Paris. Tiana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau. Catherine Hahn's character is named Agnes. Also director Matt Shackman and writer Jack Schaefer, and then of course Kevin Feige as well. And what I loved about this press conference was they had Jaleel White as the moderator, really leaning into the sitcom angle of the whole WandaVision series. Jaleel White obviously starred as Urkel in Family Matters. So I thought that was just really funny, and he was great too. He brought a lot of character to the event. But yeah, it was a lot of fun hearing them talk about this series that we've been waiting for so long now. It feels. I think the biggest highlight to me was Olsen and Bettany talking about where they kind of drew their inspiration from, and I guess I can say a little bit. Elizabeth Olsen's performance reminded me a lot of Lucille Ball. I felt like she took a lot of inspiration from her, and she actually specifically mentioned Mary Tyler Moore and Elizabeth Montgomery as inspiration, and then she said she inadvertently sort of threw a little bit of Lucy into her performance as well. So I thought that was really fun and perfectly summarized what I've seen from her performance so far, which is amazing. She's so good. Paul Bettany also specifically mentioned Dick Van Dyke and Hugh Laurie as inspiration for his character, his work in this series. So I thought that was really interesting as well. Two very different, ways to go, which makes sense for Vision though, because he is sort of this, that's at times sort of stoic. He's literally a machine, but then also just so goofy and funny sometimes. So really found that to be interesting.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned obviously Disney legend Dick Van Dyke, who, his Disney work was theatrical, but I don't know what he's best known for anymore, but best known, perhaps the Dick Van Dyke Show being his, claim to fame outside of Mary Poppins. It definitely has that vibe from what we've seen with, at least the 50s episodes, it definitely feels like that kind of relationship, that Mary Tyler Moore Dick Van Dyke relationship, but with sort of a bewitched setup. Obviously there's the nosy neighbor trope, which fits the bewitched kind of thing. Obviously there's more to them than meets the eye. So what was your this is the first Disney Plus Marvel content of scripted MCU content.
Right.
And it's also the first Marvel content we've had in over a year. So where does this feel Marvel in its own way? I mean, it's very different, obviously, but does it still feel like it's moving that whole thing forward?
It's it does, in that we are seeing these characters again. Of course, we're seeing them in like a very, very different way. But they still like have that character still shows through, even though they are also sort of playing a different character. They're kind of playing a character within a character, right? Like they're in a sitcom in a show. So it's kind of hard to break it down without going into too much of what happens. But it does feel like things are progressing the MCU as a whole, just in a very different way. And Kevin Feige was actually asked about today, was asked about the shuffle with Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first Disney Plus series. And he was asked if it made him nervous at all to lead in with WandaVision as opposed to Falcon and Winter Soldier, which would have been a more traditional Marvel Studios project. And he said he hopes that this coming out gets fans ready for the new and the different. And I think that is the perfect way to sum up WandaVision.
So I can't, don't go, I don't know what happened. So I do not let me go into spoiler territory, but with The Mandalorian, which was probably the other marquee show we've had so far on Disney Plus, there was the reveal of the child at the end of the first episode. Is there anything that Marvel fans will find surprising? I mean, I think we kind of have an idea of where this is going. Obviously we know this is leading into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which implies certain things. Are there any sort of is there a reason that we should maybe think that this is not going where we think it's going?
Trying to figure out how to play this. Things played a little faster than I thought they would, I guess. But aside from that, no. And again, I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so it's not like I've seen the whole series. Mm-hmm. Nothing stood out as incredibly surprising. I'm surprised by how funny the series is, but not as far as story elements, no.
And then, this is a weird one, but we've always been trained, with one notable exception, to stay till the end of the credits. This is a different format. Do they keep that tradition alive?
No. The credits are worth watching for several different reasons, but not in the sense that you're not going to get a post-credit scene, at least from what I've seen. Things could be different. We don't know, but from what I've seen, no, there's no what we would call a post-credit scene.
And we are live, so if you have any questions about WandaVision, can't do spoilers, but if you have any sort of big picture questions about what was maybe brought up today, or Mike's initial reaction, feel free to put those in the comments. So correct me if I'm wrong, is this the beginning of phase 4?
Yes. So it was funny because Kevin Feige was actually asked, and the question was framed as in, like, I have a backup question because this one might just get thrown out. And they asked, what, with the reshuffling and everything, can Kevin Feige tell us anything about where phase 4 ends? And he just outright said no. He just won't tell anybody anything. So I think they're playing it pretty close to the vest with as far as where the phases end and begin now. But yeah, I mean, this is the first project since Spider-Man Far From Home. So, I mean, this has to technically be the beginning of phase 4.
And we've been told that obviously, obviously the show has WandaVision, Wanda and Vision, also has, the Agnes character, and Monica Rambeau. But we also had a glimpse, we know that Darcy from the first 2 Thor films is making an appearance. Is she introduced in what you've seen, or is that going to be held later, you think?
I have not been introduced to, or reintroduced, I guess, to Darcy yet at the point we're at.
Interesting. Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you think I should ask, knowing what you know?
I mean, I have a theory as far as Catherine Hahn's character Agnes goes, and this isn't a spoiler. This isn't anything that I haven't gotten this theory from what I've seen. This was something I thought going into it, and I think she might be a different version of a character from the comics that has a lot to do with Wanda, and that would be Agatha Harkness, who kind of coaches Wanda in her magical abilities. Again, that's not taken from what I've seen at all. It is very, very different from what I've seen so far, actually. So we'll see. That maybe that plays out, but that's just sort of an out of left field theory for me. Other questions. It's so hard to not get into it.
So I mean, taking away what you've seen and all that, we've got very brief experience with Wanda and Vision. You can see the Marvel Legends show on Disney Plus. It's kind of their clip show about their story. Excuse me, but the characters have a long history together in the comics. So can you talk a little bit about the history of Wanda and Vision in the comics? Not to get too deep into the weeds of it, but this is a pairing that wasn't created for the MCU.
Right. Yeah, and it is difficult to get into Wanda's comic history because she literally just changes reality on a whim. So where does her timeline actually go? But yeah, they were Avengers. They were an early iteration of the Avengers together, and then eventually fell in love, got married, spun off into their own Vision and Scarlet Witch series. Which, by the way, if you wanted to check out some comics before watching WandaVision, we have a preview of WandaVision that has a list of comics that would be a good to touch on before you watch the series. So, and again, this is sticking to the comics, not from anything I've seen or anything that I think is going to happen in the MCU. Wanda eventually starts to lose control of her powers, and she starts warping reality. That eventually leads to the death of Vision. So she literally killed her own husband. And then things start to spiral from there. She becomes more and more of a threat to the Marvel Universe as a whole, at some point even almost completely eliminating mutants from existence. So she's obviously a very, very powerful character. Her relationship with Vision is as traditional a love story as you get in Marvel Comics. So, I mean, there's a lot of depth to this character, and I can't wait to see more of it play out in WandaVision.
And so, in the comics, her and her brother Quicksilver are son and daughter of Magneto, which obviously until recent days wouldn't have been possible in the MCU. That's why you have the different version of Quicksilver in the X-Men films. And then you have Vision, who is the son of Ultron in a manner.
Right.
And so you have two characters that are children of villains in the simplest form, who where one can distort reality and one can is a cyborg or whatever the proper term is.
I think is what they were going with. Synthezoid, I think, is what they.
Yeah, you're right. So, which I don't even know, and yet they fall in love and have a family, which is things when your powers are alternating, bending reality. That's difficult. And what's interesting to me is this, obviously when she said no more mutants and got rid of most of the mutants in the Marvel universe, that didn't put her on like great footing in terms of her friends.
Right.
But, and seeing in recent times their relationship in the comics becoming, thawing a little bit between Wanda and Vision, it's been really interesting because, in a much similar way as a soap opera, people fall in love, they fall out of love, they die, they get reborn, they have evil twins. I mean, that's just the sort of comic book trope. But It's been interesting to see, it's about as true love as you get in a comic. They don't have struggles. Obviously, when you're dealing with people who are dealing with comic level stuff, they have challenges. But I mean, maybe. See, I think Reed Richards and Sue Storm kind of started out as that. So I don't, you don't have the fall in love component as much, but I think they might be my favorite couple in the Marvel universe. I mean, there's some other good ones, Peter and MJ, and and on the mutant side, you have. See, I'm not a huge fan of the whole Cyclops Jean Grey thing, but
there's too many angles to that one.
Yeah, a lot of angles to that one. Or Rogue and Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
But especially if you're looking at sort of the Avengers tie, I think they're the best couple, and they're you have people who fall in love a lot in the comics, but because they're superheroes, they can't. It's just never that important to them. Whereas these. There's a dichotomy between with WandaVision of being sort of the least reality-based heroes out there, yet they have the most human love story, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it's funny that you put it that way because the word reality has come up so much for me in the last 3 days dealing with Wanda. But also, writer Jack Schaefer actually touched on the love story element of WandaVision and kind of just pointed out that to this point, they've pretty much just stolen moments in these big dramatic, action-packed movies. And now we're getting to see them in this sort of homebody experience, doing dishes and just like being in the kitchen. And so it's so different from everything we've seen from them before. And I think she said she referred to it as cute until it isn't. So that kind of sums up at least what I've seen so far.
Well, and that's what I think is nice about these Disney Plus shows is it's hard to show relationships like this slowly in a 2-hour movie where you got to save the universe. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping. That you're able to tell a little bit more. Now, here's a question. How long are the episodes-ish?
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, actually. They are short. So to this point, I haven't even really gotten through what would have been the duration of your typical Marvel movie. So they're roughly a half hour each episode. So I'm sitting at about 90 minutes right now and just waiting for the second half of the movie, really. So yeah, they're shorter than what you're used to from, say, The Mandalorian or something like that. For the most part, at least. I guess there were some shorter episodes of The Mandalorian, but so don't expect hour-long episodes. Although we could see that change as we get farther into the show as well.
So did you get to hear the theme songs?
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything about how each episode is structured, but there's a different theme song for each episode, and they are so good.
Hope we get like an album. Like
that, yeah, they need to release something because I need all of these theme songs in one place.
So, anything else you want to share about WandaVision before we go?
Well, yeah, I guess more on the history of Scarlet Witch, because you mentioned that they start a family, which I failed to put into their history. But so in the comics, Wanda does have 2 kids, but then she doesn't, but then she does, and then she does and doesn't at the same time. So, like I said, it's hard to follow Wanda's history with her reality warping abilities. So, but yeah, just know that she does have children in the comics. Eventually, somehow, maybe.
Well, and we saw babies in the trailer.
Right. Yeah. So that's not something completely, that I'm breaking right now. But yeah. So I'm very interested to see how they play that storyline out.
And her kids in the comics aren't just Rugrats in the side. I mean, they play a role. I mean, if you read Empire,
yeah.
So there's that as we look for the next generation of heroes. I don't know what happens in WandaVision, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing to see, WandaVision, the next generation.
And I'll say too that given again with these reality changing abilities, what I've seen so far in WandaVision might have zero impact on the final result of WandaVision. It could be completely erased for all we know. I have no idea. So it's that weird, quirky sort of series that you just don't know where it's going to go.
So with Mandalorian, I don't know if you got this answer or if anyone asked the question or if we have any idea, but with Mandalorian, obviously we have Mandalorian season 1. We've had Mandalorian season 2. We're going to have Mandalorian season 3. These Marvel shows come across as a little bit more, event-based. Mm-hmm. However, there's reports that Loki will be having a season 2. So they mentioned if this is, sort of a 9-episode and done situation, or
no, they didn't get into that at all. And I would imagine if anybody was to ask Kevin Feige, his simple answer would have been no. I am also, I get that vibe as well, that this might be all we see from WandaVision. But I get that because we already know Wanda's going to go into Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. We don't know, where the next Avengers movie fits in. So it's hard to plan out another WandaVision season when they're going to be fitting into other parts of this overall universe. So I kind of get the vibe that we won't see a second season, but who knows? They might work it in some way.
Maybe they'll get Reginald Bell Johnson to guest star as a cop or a SHIELD agent or something. Okay, so that's it. 9 episodes. Start with 2 episodes on January 15th on Disney Plus. So if you're disappointed that there was basically nothing new on Disney Plus this week, which is true, at least next week you'll have 2 episodes to make up for it. I don't know why they just didn't move up the release date, but whatever. So we're going to get into some LP highlights for this week. Obviously, your review of WandaVision on January 15th is January 14th will be a big deal. I'm excited to find out what you think, although I'm guessing it's not a huge surprise. And then you'll be back for Marvel time on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, more comics to hold us over until we get to that debut of WandaVision.
Yeah, with everything going on and sort of, the parks being slow and movies not coming out, it's great to have WandaVision to kind of give us something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you know, every week we kind of end with what our favorite thing was from last week and what our favorite thing is from this week. So what was your favorite Disney thing to happen last week?
Yeah, so just to try and give a different answer from just watching WandaVision, because that would be my favorite from both this past week and the upcoming week. I also went over to check out Everglades, which opened up at Disney Springs, which was really, really good. So definitely recommend checking that out. Yeah, and then of course the amazing comics.
So my for last week was Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. Just it's just regular Wheel of Fortune, but with celebrities. And I don't know if it's any better than regular Wheel of Fortune, but just having people who are a little bit more, the crosstalk's a little bit more. It's a little looser goose, but they still played Wheel of Fortune. No rule changes, really. They just gave out more money. So in these trying times, it's nice to have Pat and Vanna and your Tony Hawk and Leslie Jones and Chandra Wilson from Grey's Anatomy playing Wheel of Fortune.
That is a very interesting group.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to watch them because, Chandra's just there. I think she was just trying to have fun with it. Tony Hawk was probably better than he wanted to be, and Leslie Jones took it really serious. So you got kind of a whole different, it's not their money. It's going to charity.
Right.
In the end, it doesn't really, you want to win as much money for your charity as possible, but it's not going to change their life. But you wouldn't have told from Leslie Jones. You would have thought, this was going to be able to make her feed her family. She was into it and gave out her philosophy regarding vowels and how things play. It's an interesting watch. And she talked about how she sent in so many postcards to be on Wheel of Fortune that Wheel of Fortune actually sent her a letter back saying, "We got it. You don't need us anymore." Like back in the day when that's how you used to get on game shows. So next week.
Yeah, WandaVision is premiering on Friday. In case we haven't made that clear already, I can't wait. One, to be able to talk about it because it's going to kill me. I'm just going to be biting my tongue for a week. And two, I'm so excited for everyone to see, and I'm excited to see what people think actually because I'm wondering about the people that are going in looking for the next Marvel project and getting something completely unexpected. So I'm really excited to see what people's reactions are to it.
Mine's obviously WandaVision too, but it's basically the only thing happening next week. But I'm really curious to see what the reviews are like. Mandalorian was, is well loved. There's as it should be, and there's always people complain about everything, but I think as a whole, everyone can say it's a critical and commercial success. And I'm just really curious. This is the next risk. This is the the big fib is not going to change. Get any attention, but this is the next thing. And Marvel has had a great streak. Just like Pixar, right? And so, will they be able to keep that up with something that is a different format? In the most sincere sense of the word, and a different, it's not just typical Marvel. People, criticism people have is Marvel, is kind of tonally the same. And if you have that, I don't know. I always hate the, concept that a sequel is totally the same as the first one. Well, that's the whole point of a sequel. But, I'm interested to see, as they take I would say a risk, see how it plays out.
Yeah, and I'd say they definitely took a risk with this one. They swung big. Whether or not it hits, we'll see. I personally think it does. So,
so we'll let you get back to football. Thanks so much for joining us. Dig a Little Deeper will be on today at 4 p.m. And let me see if I can quickly find out what they're covering today. Oops. I do not know, but it will be on at 4 p.m. And with Rebecca, Doobie, and their gang. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm still jealous that you guys see WandaVision. I look forward to seeing it bright and early on the 15th, if I can wait that long.
I'm jealous that you just have to wait 5 days to see something new. I got to wait 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But let's see, my thing is in this household, we typically watch it Friday morning. So I'm going to wake up at 2 a.m. and not be able to sleep knowing it's there and I can't watch it. But in any case, thanks so much for joining us in LP In Depth. We're going to take next week off, and we'll be back the following week with Alex talking about Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival. So thanks, everybody.
Bye.